So, welcome to the Compassionate Capitalist Show. For those that are returners and then listen to it on a regular basis, and again, those that are new, one of the things that we always focus on with this show is how to create wealth from successful businesses. And whether you, as an investor in those businesses, because a lot of businesses, most businesses often require outside capital, and that's what we are about. Compassionate capitalism is investing in entrepreneurs, but those business owners themselves. The whole reason why you get into a business is not only to make money while you're doing it, but to make money while you exit it. And it is imperative to make a sustainable, scalable, and sellable business to do that. And today I have a very special guest. I'm so excited about having Michelle Seiler Tucker on my show. I'm going to tell you why I'm so excited about having her on my show, because she is literally, truly, I think, the best at explaining and teaching and educating and helping business owners do exactly that. Scalable, sellable businesses that they'll make more money selling their business as a result of learning and using what she says to do that than really, I think, anything else out there. So say hello, Michelle, and I'll tell everybody more about you in just a second.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Karen.
Absolutely. So Michelle Seiler Tucker is the founder and CEO of Seiler Tucker Incorporated. She holds the title of M&AMI, which stands for Mergers and Acquisitions Master Intermediary, as well as a certified merger and acquisitions professional. She's a certified senior business analyst. Michelle also owns many other businesses in several different industries and has her own long successful track record of buying, turning around and selling businesses for a profit. As a 20-year veteran in the M&A industry, she's regarded as the leading authority on buying, selling, fixing, and growing businesses. Her and her firm have sold over 1,000, I'll repeat that, 1,000 businesses in almost every vertical and have a remarkable track record for success, as I already said. In addition to being featured in Inc., Forbes, Entrepreneur Magazine, and USA Magazine, Michelle is an international keynote speaker and makes regular radio and TV experiences on Fox Business News and CNBC. She has spoken alongside many prominent speakers: Eric Trump, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Kathy Ireland, Donna, Karen, Stedman, Graham, and the list goes on and on, including Randy Zuckerberg and Steve Wozniak. She is the best-selling author of the book Sell Your Business for More Than It's Worth, and has a new book coming out called Exit Rich, and that's what we're going to focus our time talking about today. And those who the who's who of the business industry have endorsed this book, Exit Rich. It's Stephen Forbes, Brian Tracy, Les Brown, Jack Canfield, Kevin Harrington, just to name a few. It's co-written with Sharon Lechter, who many of you will know from the Rich Dad, Poor Dad series with Robert Kiyosaki, and it is sure to be a New York bestseller. Go to exitrich.com to get your copy and all the perks that come with that before June 22nd. And we'll learn a lot more about that during the program. So again, officially welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I want to ask you first, because being, a fellow woman, business owner and advisor for entrepreneurs, our field is most often dominated by men. Mm-hmm. And you, as a forever young, attractive women in the field dominated by men in this M&A space, please share with our audience how you came to be involved in the mergers and acquisition side of the business.
Yep. So, I didn't really wake up one day and say, oh, I'm going to sell companies. But I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur, and I've owned many different businesses in many different verticals. And I did end up going into franchise sales, franchise consulting, franchise development, and had an equity partnership in several different franchisor businesses. And I found myself kept saying no, because buyers would come to me all the time and say, I don't want to buy a franchise. I want to buy an existing business. And I kept saying, well, that's not what we do. That's not what we do. We do franchise sales, franchise development, franchise consulting. And then one day I'm like, this is ridiculous. I should be saying yes, yes, yes. And really, that's how I open up my mergers and acquisitions firm, by saying, look, there's so many buyers for existing businesses that don't want to buy franchises. I've got a captive audience. I need to go ahead and open up a firm. And that's what I did. It was really that simple.
Well, and thousands of business, 1,000 businesses. That's just phenomenal. It's kind of like
That's
you
over
must have a
20 years ago. Yeah, that was over 20 years ago. So I got in, I've been in this business a little over 20 years. So that's a little
yeah,
over 53 businesses a year, I believe.
yeah,
And some years we've sold more, some years we've sold less. One year, last year we sold less,
yeah.
because of the pandemic. But yeah, so I think that's what about averages out to. I have personally sold 500 and my company has
I know.
sold. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's what I'm saying. It's like you have a clone. I mean, it's like it's just amazing to me
I
that
wish
you
I had a clone. I'd be doing so much more. I
and
have all this big
and it's
things I want to do. I'm like, I need to clone myself.
yeah, and it's not like you're just peddling them in and out of the door. You're helping these business owners when you get involved in turning them around and creating the value proposition for them to exit rich, to sell their business at the maximum amount that they can sell it for, which they often, when we were talking before, they don't even have an idea that they have the ability to do that. Now, of course, it takes lots of work to get there, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
But it's just that it's just really, I just, hats off to you that you are have accomplished what you've accomplished, and that's why I said you forever young in this male dominated field, because you like it's 20 years looks well on you. So I just,
Thank you.
so,
Thank you.
so all right, so let's, because this is the thing, one of the things we hope to get out of it, and I'm going to tell the audience, in the 30 minutes or so that we're going to be talking today, there's no way you can learn everything that you need to know to take your business. If you didn't start right with an exit strategy before you got ready to go do that, and what your roadmap, and you're having to navigate and figure this stuff out, it doesn't happen overnight, and you're not going to learn what you need to learn in 30 minutes. She's got 21 golden nuggets, absolute gold nuggets in her book Exit Rich, that we're going to talk about some of those today, but I really want to again encourage you to go to exitrich.com and get that, so you can learn for yourself.
Exitrichbook.com.
Exitrichbook.com. Thank you. Yes. For proven techniques to maximize the value and preparation and process of the sale of your business. So let's get into some of those. So let's see, discuss the key elements that to maximize the value in your sale. One of your first gold nuggets is something we talk about, and I mentioned it before when I mentor entrepreneurs about what investors are looking for. They kind of want to know, do you have an exit strategy or a plan, or at least a target of what it's going to be before you begin? So what's a good way? What do you tell your clients, to start? Let's start with starting right, and then we'll figure out we'll get into how you fix it when you didn't actually get started in such a way.
So what Steve Forbes says is true. 8 out of 10 businesses don't sell. And Steve Forbes actually endorsed Exit Rich.
Right.
And 8 out of 10 businesses don't sell. That's 80%. Those are pretty startling statistics. The number one reason that businesses don't sell, there's many reasons, but the biggest reason is that business owners never think about selling their business. They never plan their exit, and they never build a sellable asset. They never build a business that a buyer actually wants to buy. They don't think about selling until an internal or external catastrophic event has occurred. Internal meaning health issues, partner disputes, divorce, death. External,
Right.
this pandemic we're in, or burnout. They're like, oh my God, I can't do this anymore. That's the worst time to sell your business. You never want to sell your business during a catastrophic event, because your business is going to be trending downward. The best time to sell your business is when your business is doing well, and it's
Right.
at the height, you're in your prime. So what I work with my clients on is how to plan. It's like Stephen Covey, start with the end in mind. And that's what you need to be doing with your business. Start with the end in mind. Plan your GPS. I call this the ST GPS exit model. You need to start this from day one of buying or starting a company. So the first step in the GPS exit model is kind of like when you drive somewhere, Karen. What do? You pull out your phone, you go to Google Maps, and what do you plug in?
Your destination.
Your destination. That's the biggest issue with business owners. They have no destination. When you don't have a destination, you're going to drive around in circles. You're going to drive up and down the financial hills, ending up nowhere. And business owners they don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. So I tell all my business owners, figure out your destination. What is your end game? What is your desired sales price? Pick a number. And so many business owners get hung up on a number. Don't get hung up on a number. It's something you can change along the way.
Yeah.
So let's say you want to sell your business for $20 million. Just pick a number. Now, what does a GPS exit model need to know? It needs to know where you're starting from.
And right.
What is your current location? What is your current evaluation? What is your business worth today? And most business owners have never, ever had a business evaluation. I just met with an owner the other day, been in business for 50 years, never had his business evaluated. That's financial suicide.
Yeah.
You know, we go to the doctor once a year to get an annual checkup to make sure our heart's still ticking and we're still kicking. We drive our car to the mechanic to get an annual tune-up to make sure our car is in good shape, but we don't take our most valuable asset and get an annual valuation checkup. That's financial suicide, because there are events that increase valuation and there are events that decrease valuation. So it's imperative to know what your business is worth every year. So let's say you want to sell for 20 million. Let's say you're currently worth 5 million. And let's say, what's the next thing you need to know in a GPS exit model? Time frame.
Right.
Let's say you want to do this in 10 years. Now you have a start of a plan. The next thing you need to know is, who are my buyers going to be? Not buyer, but buyers. There's 5 different types of buyers. And a lot of clients come to me and say, Michelle, I have the buyer. I just need you to represent me.
Yeah.
Well, I will assure you that in all likelihood, that buyer is probably not going to close on the sale of your business. So
Right.
you never want to put all your eggs in one buyer's basket. You always want to have backup buyers. Plus, how can you maximize value if you can't create competition because you have one buyer?
Right.
You want to create competition and get a bidding war started. That's where you get the highest possible price.
You're
So
right.
there's 5 different types of buyers. 90% of buyers are first-time buyers. They're not going to buy a $20 million company. They typically buy businesses under $1 million. And then you have turnaround specialists as a second type of buyer, and they buy distressed assets. They're not buying a $20 million company. Then you have private equity groups, PEGs. And we work with about 3,000 private equity groups. Private equity groups buy based upon platforms and add-ons. On platform, let's say they want to get in the food manufacturing space. They won't even consider a company unless it's at least $3 million to $5 million in EBITDA. EBITDA is earnings
Right.
before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. Now, let's say they're already in food manufacturing and they're looking at a spice company. They'll consider that spice company under $1 million in EBITDA. That's an add-on. So add-ons can be much smaller, but platforms have to have at least 3 and up million in revenue.
Right.
And then so the 4th type of buyers are strategic / competitors. Strategics typically will pay the highest multiple on a sale of the business because they're buying synergies that will help catapult their current business to the next level. Plus, they're taking advantage of economies of scale. And a lot of times, strategics and competitors can look at the infrastructure of the business that they're buying and cut cost immediately and increase EBITDA day 1 of closing on the sale of the business. The last type of buyer is sophisticated entrepreneurs. They're industry agnostic. They chase EBITDA. They chase cash flow. So out of those 5 types of buyers, 3 would be right to buy the $20 million company. Now you need to reverse engineer your numbers and say, okay, reverse engineer your plan and say, okay, if I want to sell for 20 and I'm worth 5 million today, where's my gross revenues need to be? Cost of goods. Most importantly, where does my EBITDA need to be to sell for $20 million?
Right.
Well, your EBITDA needs to be, I would say, between 4 million and 5 million, depending upon the synergies that you have built. Then you need to look at, what do these buyers look for? What synergies are they willing to pay top dollar for? How do I build this business to meet their specific criteria from the beginning? Kind of like when a business starts, they say, okay, I have a widget. I'm going to take this widget. I'm going to market this widget. Here's my ideal target market for this widget.
Right.
Same thing when you're trying to sell your business. And then
Right.
you build to suit that buyer specific criteria. The last step in a GPS exit model is the why. Why do you want to sell your business for $20 million? You have to have a powerful reason. I once had a client that was selling a media company and he wanted to sell between 10 to 15. And I said, why do you want to sell between 10 and 15? He said, because my wife was diagnosed with a debilitating skin disease. I want to help find a cure. That's a pretty motivational, powerful why. If it was easy to sell a business for $20 million, everybody would be doing it. So you
Right.
need to have a powerful why that will keep you motivated, keep you hungry, keep you in the game, keep you weathering all the financial storms that come our way.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah. Because you could be trucking along and all of a sudden, bam, here comes a pandemic.
Right.
So in order
The
for you to
black
stay on
swan.
course, you have to make sure you have that powerful why in place.
Yes. Yes. And that's actually something that, as I work with companies that got stuck because they raised a little bit of an angel, they got stuck in that 3 to 5 million because they didn't
Mhm.
get the next round of capital to go and grow it and hit their milestones to get to a potential exit at 20 million. They kind of get stuck, but they also lose their why because they're in the grind. So sometimes
Right.
people, a lot of times entrepreneurs will start with a passion and a purpose and things like that. And then the life and the grind of the business and some of the struggles will just get them. They get, that phrase. They're so busy working in their business, they can't work on their business, and their
Mhm.
business becomes a lifestyle business, even though they never actually planned on it being a lifestyle business, but they can't ever, it's extremely difficult to sell, as you know, a lifestyle business versus a scalable business. So let's talk about that. When somebody comes to you and they find themselves, they didn't put that destination in there, and they see, even if they're doing 3 million, 4, 5 million in business, how do they pivot emotionally and structurally and operationally? And this is not something that you could probably cover in like 5 minutes, right? But give us a little appetizer of the big vision of how they pivot from lifestyle to a scalable business.
Well, they build their business on an infrastructure. So, they got to stop that lifestyle business and really look at building. First of all, it's mindset. Let's start from the
Right.
mind. First of all, they got to change their mindset. So many business owners get stuck, because of their mindset. Their mind says, this is my baby. My
Right.
business is my baby. You know, I'm never going to sell my baby, or nobody else can do it as good as I can, or nobody else is going to take care of the customers like I do. And they got to get out of the mindset that their business is their baby, because it's not your baby. You have babies at home. Go home, hug those babies, kiss those babies, spend time with those babies. Treat your business as a valuable asset as it is. I don't see anybody that takes their financial portfolio and say, oh my gosh, my stocks are my baby. They don't do that. They buy, sell. If the stocks are not doing good, they get rid of, they get other stocks in, right?
Right.
They treat it as a valuable asset. They treat it as a retirement fund and as their nest egg, but yet they treat their baby as their business as their baby, right? So they got to change this mindset first. Your baby, your business is your most valuable asset. It is not your baby's. All right. Just like your financial portfolio is an asset, right?
Right.
Okay. So you're not treating that as your baby. So you need to first change your mindset. You need a mindset shift. And you need to look at your most valuable asset and say, okay, what are we missing here? How do we build a solid infrastructure to where my business can be sustainable, that I can scale? And when I'm ready, I will actually have a sellable asset. Because most businesses, the reason they don't sell is because the business owner never built a business. They built a glorified job in which they go to work at every day rather than a business that works for them. And they never built a business that somebody actually wants to buy. So let's start with the infrastructure. Okay. So the first P, I take my clients through what I
Yeah.
call the 6 Ps. The first
Right.
P is people. People is one of the most important aspects of your business. Entrepreneurs get stuck working in the day to day because entrepreneurs are control freaks. They think if they want it done right, they have to do it themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you, you will never grow unless you let go of the control.
Right.
You have to focus on your strengths and hire your weaknesses. Stop thinking that you're going to do everything, because it's impossible to do
Right.
everything. And the number two reason that businesses are not sellable is because number one, business owners don't plan for their exit. Number two, the business is 1,000% dependent upon the owner.
Right.
I just had a dentist call me that wants to sell. Been in business 50 years, one dentist, 3 dental hygienists. The 3 dental hygienists are his daughters. And I said, the only way we can sell is if y'all stay on for 2 to 3 years. He goes, we're not staying. I said, then you're not selling, because when
Right.
you leave, the patients leave. So we have to create a business that will run without us. So you got to get the right people in the right seats. A lot of business owners have the right people in the wrong seats. And then you got to ask the who question. Who opens the door? Who handles customer service, legal, marketing, accounting, manufacturing, logistics, environmental? The list goes on and on and on. The clue, Karen, is you should never be next to the who,
Right.
because you need the business to run without you.
Right.
And business owners need to be the visionary, and they need to work on the business, not in the business.
Well, it goes also to that whole thing of, I mentioned Robert Kiyosaki before that I learned, he changed my paradigm. If you don't do the business like you're talking about, then you're self-employed. You're not a business owner.
Yeah, you're
Right?
self-employed. And so many business owners are really, like I said, they have a glorified job in which they're going to work at every day versus a business that actually works for them.
Yeah.
So you got to fix the people thing. The people is the most challenging of any business. It is the most challenging, but you got to get the people problem first. Okay. The next P is product. So you got to look at your product, look at your industry, look at your service, and ask yourself, is my industry, my product, service on the way up or on the way out? Is it thriving or dying? Do I have an Amazon and I'm at the top of my game? Or do I have a Blockbuster and I'm about to go out of business?
Right.
And there's a lot of industries right now, especially hospitality, that's taking a nosedive, because of this pandemic. There are a lot of industries that were dying, like manufacturing, before this pandemic, that are now thriving. So you really got to look at that. And then you got to ask yourself, I tell all my clients, if you're in an industry that's dying, that doesn't mean you just pack up, go home, and curl up in a fetal position and die. You got to do something about it.
Yeah. Pivot.
So
that's not one of your
pivot.
P's, but yeah.
Pivot. Well, it's a P I use all the time, but you
Yeah.
pivot. And I actually wrote this book before COVID. But you pivot. But how do you pivot? How do you pivot? This is how you pivot.
Your
You
products.
ask transformational questions. Amazon did this back in the 90s. Ask yourself 3 questions, and every business owner should pause this right now and ask themselves these questions. Number 1 is, what business am I in? Amazon asked that question, what business am I in? And they said, we're in a book selling business. We fulfill book orders. Number 2 question, what do I do? What do we do better than anybody else? What is our core competency, our USP, unique selling proposition? Amazon said fulfillment. We're better at fulfillment than anyone else. Then the next obvious question is, what business should we be in? Should we be in? Meaning, what business should we pivot to? Amazon said, we should be in a fulfillment business. We should be fulfilling products for everybody, not just booksellers. Those 3 transformational questions transformed Amazon from a small bookseller to a multi-billion-dollar worldwide conglomerate.
Yeah.
That they are today. Those 3 questions. So ask yourself those 3 questions. What business are you in? What do you do better than anybody else? What should you be in? Now, that doesn't mean that, let's say you're in the restaurant industry, you say, okay, I'm not going to be in a restaurant anymore. I'm going to open up an auto parts store. No, that's not what that means. Amazon didn't really change things that much. All they did was decide to fulfill for everybody, fulfill all kinds of products, right?
Right. Right.
So these questions sound simple, but I always say when you're in your fog, it's foggy. So a lot of times you need an outsider's perspective to help you navigate these 3 transformational questions. And then the next P is processes. And you will never scale without processes.
Right.
Now, most business owners kind of treat processes like exit strategy. They never think about it until something bad happens in their company. And they're like, oh, we need a process for that. You probably needed a process before that to avoid that from happening. Now, this is where most business owners get it wrong. Most business owners don't design the processes around the customer experience. They design it around their own agenda.
Yes. Customer
Oh, we
discovery,
want to be
customer engagement.
efficient. So we're not ever going to answer our phones. We're just going to give you 12 different prompts to push, you know? So we're never going to answer our phones. That process is not designed to create happy customer experiences. It's designed to infuriate customers, right? So you really got to design your process around your customer experience. So again, this is where you should pause this and ask yourself, what do you want your customers to experience? McDonald's did this back in the 50s. Did you ever watch the movie The Founder?
Yes.
It's on the McDonald brothers. Okay.
Right.
So if you remember correctly, back in the 50s, McDonald's said we want to build a fast food restaurant because nobody's doing fast food. We want a fast food system. We want to design the processes around the customer experience. They said we want our customers to experience great tasting food that's hot, fast, 30 seconds or less. Do you remember when I took all the employees out to the tennis courts?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They took chalk and they drew the processes out. And everybody kept bumping into each other and they erased it and they drew it again. And they did this for like 10 hours. And one of the McDonald's brothers was on the ladder and he had a little conductor stick and he was like conducting, all the employees to what they should be doing. It was like a symphony of systems. It was pretty unique. And McDonald's, even though they built those processes back in the 50s and they've been tweaked along the way, it is the reason that you can eat at a McDonald's anywhere on the road and really get the same experience.
Right. Right.
So
And
you got to not think about the owner's agenda. You got to think about what your customer wants to experience, because if you don't create wow experiences for your clients, your competitors will be happy to do it for you and you will lose market share.
and it's amazing how many big companies we can look at that lost sight of that. What you were talking about with the telephone, right? You
Right.
think about big companies like what's up with Sears? Why couldn't Sears have pivoted and become more recognizing what was happening with Amazon and stuff like that, that they never could quite figure it out because they lost their customer connection, right? And so
Right.
whatever size it is,
Same thing with
figuring out before.
Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Same thing with Blockbuster. They were out of touch with what their customers wanted. And Netflix said, people don't want to leave their house at nighttime to go get a movie, right? When they could be sitting in their home and just order it on online like Netflix, right?
Yeah.
So Blockbuster saw what Netflix was doing, and Blockbuster had the opportunity to buy Netflix, and they sat back and did nothing, and now they're out of business. So that happens to company after company after company. It is the reason why the business landscape has changed dramatically. Most business owners don't know this, but when I wrote my very first book in 2013 called Sell Your Business for More Than It's Worth, and I did the research and learned that 95% of all startups go out of business. We all know that. That's common knowledge. But here's what you don't know. When I wrote Exit Rich in 2019, 2020, I did the exact same research. And this was before the pandemic. I learned that only 30% of startups will go out of business. The business landscape has flip-flopped.
Really?
Startups, only 30%. However, out of 27.6 million companies, those businesses that have been in business 10 years or longer, 70% are at risk of going out of business. 70. 70%. So it's flip-flopped. It used to be if you're in business past 5 years, you're golden, you're going to be in business forever. Not the case. And you hear about the big public companies all the time, like Toys R Us is in business 75 years, goes out of business. Toys R Us is a perfect example of not doing anything different.
Yeah.
Kmart goes out of business. Steinmart, Pier 1, Godiva closes down 1,500 locations. GNC is closing down 900 locations. But what you don't hear about are all the in every single city. These businesses are going out of business and dropping. They're not exiting rich, they're exiting poor. They're having to close their business, sell for pennies on the dollar, or even worse, file bankruptcy. And the number one reason that these businesses are going out of business when startups are not is because business owners stop doing what I call AIM, AIM. AIM is always innovate and market. They stop innovating and they stop marketing. They're married to their original ideas. Blockbuster is married to their original concept. Toys R Us married to their original concept. You're either growing or dying. There is no in between. That's why those transformational questions about what kind of business are we in? What do we do really well? What should we pivot to are so crucial right now, especially more than ever before. And the startups are not like, they're not starting up another yogurt shop or another ice cream shop, because God knows we don't need any more yogurt shops, ice cream shops, coffee shops. They're coming up with real solutions to real problems, and that's why they're succeeding. And business is all about coming up with solutions to solve problems and be innovative. You
Yep.
know, if you're not innovating, you're dying. So back to processes. So your processes must be designed with the customer experience in mind. They must be productive, efficient, and well documented. You need your policy and procedure manuals. In fact, you should have a policy and procedure manual that's open in your company. And every time something different happens, you add that new policy right then and there. It is a working, light, living, breathing document. And same thing with your SOP checklist. You also need to make sure you have employee handbooks, non-competes, employee contracts. You'd be surprised how many of these documents are missing. And when buyers go in to do due diligence, it's the first thing they ask for. Let me see your policy and procedure manuals. Let me see your employee contracts. And,
Yeah.
and we work with our clients up front to get those documents in place, because we know they probably don't have them.
Right.
And we know
Right.
that buyers are going to ask for them. So processes are huge.
Yeah. So, when it comes to, because your golden nugget 8, another P, proprietary. So when you're dealing with a business, I mean, most startups are some kind of innovation that's coming out, particularly if they're investor backed kind of a thing, and they'll have something that's within their operations. I had a conversation with a guy yesterday that I told him he should be able to get a process patent, for what he was doing. He was like, I didn't even know I could do that. So when somebody's been around for a bit, and maybe they're like a dentist or a traditional type of what I call a market participant business, they're not a market maker, they're not creating a new market, right? What is there things that they could do proprietary that they haven't really thought about that increases the value of the company?
Yeah. So let's talk about proprietary, because proprietary is the number one value driver.
Right.
Proprietary will get you a higher multiple than anything else. And let me give you just a crash course on valuation. So businesses are under $1 million in EBITDA typically will trade for a multiple of 1 to 3 times EBITDA, maybe 3.5 to 4. But you're not going to get much more than 4 if you're under $1 million in EBITDA. Businesses that have $1 million and over in EBITDA will typically trade 4, 5, and up. Some of these proprietary assets that we're about to get into can bring you to a 6, a 7, an 8, a 9, or a 10. So you really got to pay attention to proprietary. There's 6 pillars to proprietary.
Oh, okay.
So first and foremost is branding. The more well branded your company is, the more I can sell it for, as long as your brand is relevant in the minds of the consumer. Is anyone going to pay any money for Blockbuster?
Yeah.
No. So who's the most valuable brand in the world? Do you know?
Is it Apple?
It's Apple.
I guess I win.
You win. Yay. So Apple's the most valuable brand. They're worth $359 billion. That's without EBITDA. That's with not taking in consideration cash flow, inventory, real estate, accounts receivables, or anything else. That's just the brand alone is worth $359 billion. So
Wow.
build your brand. And trademarks are also very valuable. Trademarks on your company name, your slogan, your logo. I trademarked Exit Rich. Your podcast should be trademarked.
Yeah.
Anything that's unique to you, even products. Like we're selling a business that has 12 different exclusive products. Each product has a federal trademark. Each product is exclusive to a retail chain. Like one is for Walmart, one is for Target. They don't really compete against each other. They have their own exclusivity. A buyer will pay more money for that because each product has an exclusive to Walmart. So they want to get into Walmart. Plus, they'll pay more money for that because they have the federal trademarks. The mistake the business owners make, though, is they go to GoDaddy, they put in their domain, they're like, yes, I got it.
Right.
And then they go to the state that they're going to operate in, and they go get a local trademark, a state trademark, but they never check the federal database. They check GoDaddy before they check the federal database. Not good, because you can be operating your business for years and all of a sudden receive a cease and desist letter. And I see this happen to my clients all the time. And they hire an attorney and throw lots of money at it, and you're probably going to end up losing. And then you have to stop using that company name and start the branding process all over again. And we all know one of the most expensive things to do is branding.
Right.
So make sure you protect all of your intellectual property by getting a federal trademark. Check the federal database before you go to GoDaddy. All right. And then patents are huge. If you ever watch Shark Tank, every single investor asks the same question. Do you have a patent pending on that? Do you have a
Right.
utility patent? Their offer is typically contingent upon you having a patent. We once sold a business for $18 million. It wasn't making that much money, but they had 18 patents. So these are synergies that we're talking about. Contracts are also extremely valuable. Manufacturing contracts, vendor distribution, any type of exclusivity contracts, franchisor that has franchisees. Client contracts are extremely valuable, especially if they have a subscription model with
Right.
reoccurring revenue. So here's a caveat to contracts. I've been doing this over 20 years, thousands of, over 1,000 transactions, but meeting with thousands of business people. I've never seen a business owner actually do this correctly. In order for your contracts to be transferable, you need the transferability clause, and nobody ever has it. It's a
There's a
2 sentence
golden
transferability
nugget.
clause.
That's a platinum nugget.
Yeah. You need that 2 sentence transferability clause. There was an M&A firm that sold to a private equity group, and they weren't really M&A. It's more like a business brokerage firm. But anyway, the private equity group paid millions, had a whole legal team, and then, had a celebratory party. And then they realized that their contracts were not transferable. So they threw this huge party for all the franchisees to entice them to sign the consent to transfer. You're supposed to sign a consent to transfer before the sale.
Yeah, right.
So the franchisees didn't like the private equity group. They thought they had zero experience and they didn't want to be under their umbrella. So one franchisee transferred, signed the consent. Nobody else did. Within 90, 120 days, the company was out of business and filed bankruptcy.
Well, they'd
They
say,
sued their entire legal team. What?
yeah, well, I could see that, but I'm just thinking, isn't that kind of like for the franchise owners, the franchisees sort of knows despite your face kind of a thing? Because then you
No, because the
have to, they,
franchisees all gang together and started their own franchise.
and then they changed the things that they had always wanted to change.
Yeah, because here's the bottom line. They didn't have to. They
Yeah.
didn't have to transfer over. And the private equity group messed up because the due diligence team didn't read the contracts.
Okay. Yeah.
That's like the first thing you want to do in due diligence. So anyway, they ended up suing the whole legal team.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure we have enough time, and I'm really curious to hear this because one of your 6 P's is profits, and people could probably guess what that is. What is patrons?
Well, let me finish IP really quickly.
Okay.
And I
Okay. Sure.
promise you we'll have enough time.
Okay.
So let me just finish IP. So databases are huge. You got to grow your database because if your clients are nurtured and it can be retargeted and repurposed, we can sell that for a lot of money. Facebook paid $19 billion for WhatsApp, and WhatsApp was hemorrhaging, but they
Yeah.
had 1 billion users. So they had a synergy that Facebook knew they could ROI and monetize. Celebrity endorsements are huge. We have some companies right now that have celebrity endorsements that we're selling. One has Oprah. And those are huge because strategics will pay a lot of money for celebrity endorsements because they only can endorse one vertical at a time. You don't see Jennifer Aniston's face on other skincare products other than Aveeno. You don't see Cindy Crawford representing any other furniture store other than Rooms to Go, right? So celebrity endorsements, radio personalities are huge. E-commerce businesses that have the top 5 positions on Wayfair, Amazon, Etsy, eBay, strategics will pay you a high multiple for that. So these are your proprietary synergies, your proprietary assets. This P right here, proprietary, can take you from a 5 to a 10.
And do
Okay.
you have to have those consent to transfer with celebrity endorsements and those kind of things too? I can't
Yep.
believe a lawyer didn't they didn't pick up on that.
Happens all the time.
And even setting up a franchise, it seems like whoever did that's that. Yeah.
Happens all the time.
Wow.
So the next P is patrons. Patrons is your customer base. Most businesses follow the 80-20 rule, where 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your customers. But then if you lose a few customers, you're in big trouble. You know,
Right.
we're representing a media firm that cater to casinos. We're selling between 10 and 15 million. They have 5 casinos. They lost 2 while we were trying to sell them. Their revenues dropped in half. Their EBITDA dropped in half. They were no longer sellable. We had to merge them with another media company.
Oh,
So you
wow.
want to make sure you have customer diversification, not customer concentration. And then last P is profits. Now, yes, you know what profits are, but here's what many don't know about
Okay.
profits.
Okay.
Everybody thinks lack of profits is the problem. Lack of profits is never the problem. Lack of profits is the symptom of not having the right people in place. It's a symptom of the right
Ah,
processes in place. Lack of profits is never the problem. It's always a symptom of not operating on all 5 Ps. If you operate on all 5 Ps, you're going to be profitable.
okay. All right. Very good. So, all right, you talked about the buyers. You talked about the how to maximize your profit and all that stuff. So, how do you identify, or how do you get in the game to get in front of those folks? I mean, clearly you're an expert in doing that, and that's a service that you provide. But is there, how do people rub elbows with finding their buyers? Do they just send an email, or
Yeah,
it
I
must
would
be.
never ever recommend a seller to try to do this on their own. It's like saying I need heart surgery, cut open your heart, cut open your chest, rip your heart out and start operating on your own heart. Why would you even risk trying to sell your own company or trying to get those buyers? Confidentiality is always the number one concern for all business owners. They don't want their employees to know they're selling. They don't want their customers to know, and for good reason. You know, when employees find out, a lot of employees leave, customers get nervous. So, plus, they're not experts. They're not experts in marketing and business. They're not experts in creating a bidding war. It took me over 20 years to get these buyers. It took me over 20 years to build a list of over 28,000 buyers in my database. You know, so that's not anything that you want to try on your own. If you're thinking about selling, you need to get an advisor, an mergers
Yes.
and acquisitions advisor.
And so, is there a way to package your business into make it appeal, like at least getting through the door? I mean, obviously closing and the value comes from the 6 Ps that you did, but is there a certain way that get you sort of noticed, or get you the appointments because you've packaged the business in such a way?
So we put together a prospectus. They call it SIM in the industry, confidential information memorandum. We put together a package. We've got a package right now that's about 110 pages on one of our businesses, and it includes all the pertinent information on a business. Plus, we continue to improve it as we go. Um, and we put together the package on the business, and then we pull together strategic list that's either in our database. If they're not in our database, and we go pull strategic lists are going to be a good fit for that buyer. We do all that. Again, if an owner's trying to do this on their own, it's financial suicide. It's a
Yeah.
tremendous amount of work. You don't know how to go get the buyers. Plus, you got to be very careful in talking to your competitors. You know, if we go after someone's competitor, we're extremely careful not to divulge any proprietary information.
Right.
So
Right.
it's very difficult for a business owner to try to do that on their own.
So one of the things I know that is important when people are raising startup capital, and even when they're out there raising money from the crowd on the different platforms for raising money through general solicitation, it's important to establish this emotional connection. Is that important when you're trying to sell your business, to also have an emotional connection, or is it just
You
a,
know,
a
it's kind of
transaction?
like, it depends on who the buyer is. So remember the 5 types of buyers. If it's a first time buyer, yes, you absolutely need to establish a emotional connection, because first time buyers have never owned a business before. They're very nervous. They are very slow to pull the trigger. They need a lot of reassurances to make them comfortable with their decision of business ownership. You have to get them emotionally connected to your business. If it's a private equity group, they don't buy based on emotions. It's all about the logic. It's all about the facts. It's all about the numbers. Same thing with strategists and competitors. Now, sometimes strategists and competitors, we can get them emotionally involved, especially if it means really catapulting their current business to the next level. We had a buyer, a strategic buyer outbid all of our other buyers on a particular business that appraised for 9.8 million. He ended up paying 15 million for
Wow.
70% of the business, which was 126% more than the appraised price. And the reason for that is because he was so emotionally connected to buying the BP contract, because this company has 70% of the revenue tied up in BP, customer concentration. It scared everybody else, but it didn't scare him because they had similar products and services and they've been trying to get in BP for decades. So that was
Oh.
kind of emotional for them. So we really look at what's important to the buyer. What is the buyer trying to accomplish? What are their hot buttons? What are their sweet spots? And then that's what we try to pull out of them. And then your sophisticated entrepreneurs, they don't really get emotionally involved. They're more like, show me the numbers.
Yeah.
Show
Yeah.
me the
Yeah.
money, you know.
So one of the things that, when it comes to earlier stage folks, and, you start to, and this goes to a point at the beginning about creating a bidding war, which is the way you just described. You had this bidding war going on. Is there ever a threshold where it becomes sort of over marketed and like people go, well, what's wrong with this? I've seen this deal 3 times. It's oversold in the marketplace. Everybody's looking at it's crossed everybody's desk. Or if you have what you've done in the 6 Ps, it doesn't matter how many people you contact about buying your business, because that's how you set the stage up for a bidding war. Is there a balance there?
I'm trying to understand the question. Is there a
So
balance
to create a
between?
bidding war, when you're trying to create a bidding war, is there a risk of over shopping the deal?
Not for us, because we're very careful of how we do it. And there's different types of bidding wars or structured auctions where you go after the strategics that you feel are the biggest fit. And it's structured that you have this much time. This is what it needs to look like. And it's structured. The other type of bidding wars is where, we're just getting so much interest. And that one business I talked about, we had 12 LOIs. And they were all active, not signed LOIs, but the buyers were improving their LOIs to try to get the deal done. So it's not really over shopping, no.
Because you know who the potential buyers are. So for you, it's a strategic introduction.
Yeah, it's a strategic introduction. It's to see if it's a good strategic fit. I know what the private equity groups are looking for. You know, we know what the strategics are looking for. We know what the competitors are looking for. I mean, the private equity groups are beating down our door every day, sending us emails saying, "Do you have anything in this space? Do you have anything in that space?" So it really isn't over shopping. I mean, I can see it as over shopping, like where, the industry that you come from where you're trying to raise capital,
Right.
but not when it comes to selling businesses now.
Very
And there,
good.
there are a lot of buyers, too. I want to get this point across. People don't understand this. There are more buyers when you get EBITDA over $1 million, like that's the sweet spot. When you get EBITDA $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, $4 million and up, there are more buyers at that level than there are buyers under $1 million in EBITDA. There are more buyers for good businesses than there are good businesses to buy.
Yes, absolutely. So it looks like we are wrapping up our time here. I want to again thank you so much, Michelle, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on the Compassionate Capitalist Show. And I want to encourage folks to go to exitrich.com. You want to take just a couple of seconds to describe
Sure.
the bonuses that
Sure.
they get with that, because I'm waiting for my book. I'm already starting to tap into those bonuses, and it's really quite amazing what you're offering as part
Thank
of this.
you.
So tell our audience about that.
Well, I want them to go to exitrichbook.com because you
Oh
keep
gosh,
saying
I keep
exit
doing it.
rich.
Thank you. Thank you. And because you get to say it twice like that, book, you put the book in there. But I
Yeah. So
bet
go
you
to
are.
exitrichbook.com. The book comes out in June. But if you go to exitrichbook.com and order the book today for $24.79, which is less than Amazon, we will email you the digital download today so you can start reading it immediately. You don't have to wait till June. Plus, we will ship the hardcover to your doorstep when the book launches to anyone that lives inside the United States. And we will give you a lifetime membership into the Exit Rich Book Club, where there's video content of me doing deep dives in different techniques, strategies I've been practicing over the last 20 years, plus documents. Documents to run your business, documents to sell your business. So
Wow.
we have sample employee handbooks, non-competes, org charts, sample letter of intents, purchase agreements, due diligence checklist, and closing docs. If you went to your attorney to recreate all this, it would cost you over $30,000.
Definitely.
And these are there for your review and your download. You can download these all these documents and start using them. Plus, we give you a 30-day free membership into Club CEOs, which is an entrepreneur mastermind that I started where we do Q&As and hot seats to help those business owners really ask those transformational questions so you can get unstuck and really build that sustainable, scalable, when you're ready, sellable business. All for $24.79 at exitrichbook.com.
Exit Rich Book. I think it's the background. I keep seeing that. I have a subliminal. I left the book off there, but it is exitrichbook.com. And of course, her main website that talks about all the services and all the other content and educational materials that you have is at SeilerTucker.com, which is Seileitucker.com for those that are listening.
SEILER.
Did I not say that? I'm looking at it and I didn't even say that. SeilerTucker.com.
MICKEYMOUSE.
Yeah. BOL. Okay.
Thanks, Karen, for having me on. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you being on. Onwards and upwards. And please, everybody, go to KarenRands.co. And if you are listening to this on a platform, then please, share this out to all your friends that own their own businesses, and onwards and upwards. Thank you very much.